Welcome back, everyone, to These Aren't the Nerds You're Looking For. Kevin Horde here.
Lorenzo Fonson over here.
How you doing, buddy?
Pretty good. It's been a fun week as of recording here. Just coming off a holiday weekend. I don't know when this episode's getting released. But
24th. July the 24th. So
not too far off.
Yeah, not too far at all. We're as Lorenzo said, we just got to celebrate 4th of July in the United States. So
yes,
if that's your thing, 3 weeks ago, happy 4th of July to you.
Yeah, interesting thing about 4th of July here in California, which relates to this episode, is that we went through a little bit of an earthquake here in Southern California. Yeah,
from what I heard, there was it was more than just an earthquake, and it was a little bit more than just a little earthquake.
Yeah, at least where I was, it wasn't too bad. It was a 6.6 or 6.7 near Ridgecrest on the 4th of July. That has now been reclassified as a foreshock because on the 5th, we had a 7.1 earthquake that happened there. That one was bigger and longer from where I was lying in bed. Actually, I was lying in bed for both earthquakes.
So I hope that anybody that was affected by that is safe and doing well, and things are being put back together in the means they were prior to the event, and that people are able to move forward.
Most definitely. I say that relates to this episode because this episode deals with earthquakes.
It does.
Coincidentally.
Yeah. Lorenzo texted me earlier and said, earthquake episode, ? Maybe too soon. And I was like, I don't know what that means because I hadn't watched the episode yet. But I figured it out. And you will too.
Yep. So just hopping straight in, we have an episode called Mercy Mission. This is the 5th episode of season 4, correct?
Yep.
Yeah. What's the air date we got on this?
I've got a production code of 320. Air date is October 7th, 2011.
Yep.
1.35 million viewers, supposedly. We're still in 20 BBY, which I think we will be for quite some time.
Very nice.
So, yeah, that's what I got.
Yeah, we got director Danny Keller and writer Bonnie Mark.
Yeah. I guess we have that as well.
Yep. And then the fortune cookie, understanding is honoring the truth beneath the surface.
Yeah, so who you got on this one?
I don't know. I didn't think about this one too much. I don't know. What do you have?
My idea was Rex.
That's a good one.
But that was before I saw the episode. After I saw the episode, it feels more like the narrator. But I don't want to do that. I don't want to give it to the narrator.
We don't want to start attributing personalities to the voiceless newsreel reader. Yeah,
pretty much. But it's kind of, it's just a bit of advice about kind of, I guess, the depth of understanding, right? And I feel like Rex does have that potential to like dig deeper into meaning of things. So that was my basis for why I attributed this quote to him.
All right.
Other than that, I had nothing. So
no, I got nothing here, so we can go with that.
Cool. Well, what's the newsreel tell us about this episode? Mercy Mission.
The newsreel is a complete setup here. So we get introduced to the planet of Aleena and how they are being devastated by earthquakes. I do find it interesting that they do call them earthquakes here in canon newsreel commentary.
Oh, you know what? I didn't even catch that. Like, didn't even put two and two together that it would be like an Aleena quake or
Yeah,
like a planet quake or ground quake.
The ground quake is what the episode summary on Wikipedia denotes it as. I could have gone with that. So, yeah, I think it's because of that earthquake stood out to me there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so there's something about the people of Aleena needing help, and the Jedi and the Republic were going to have some ships head off to battle, but then they are kind of rerouting some of them to provide humanitarian support to Aleena and give relief, right?
Yeah,
to people.
It says a Jedi transport on a mission to blockade Separatist annexation of the Kalura system is waylaid to provide desperately needed humanitarian relief. So basically, they were headed elsewhere and then got diverted here to Aleena for a quick mission, right? That's what I'm getting.
Yes.
And then the episode proper starts, and it's Amidala and Yoda talking to Commander Wolf. Wolf doesn't seem really too keen on going through with this, and he's like, "No, my mission was yada yada yada." And Yoda's like, "Yeah, your mission still stands, but you got to do this first." It's only now that I made the connection that Wolf's crew was diverted away from what his other mission was. Like, when I was listening to the newsreel, what I got out of it was that the mission was to go here, and then most of the people that were going here were diverted elsewhere. Totally had it backwards.
Yeah.
So at that point, we head planet side.
We get introduced to C-3PO and R2-D2 who enter this story.
Yep.
And they will be providing the translation of the Aleena, is I guess how we refer to the people. They had said it a few times, but I still caught myself writing Aleenians.
I definitely wrote Aleenians, and I wrote Owls.
Yeah, the Owls.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I like the Owls. I like to call them the Owls, but the Aleena seem to be the proper nounification?
Yeah.
What do you call it?
Proper noun.
Whatever you call that. Yeah, the proper noun form of folks from Aleena.
Sure.
Yeah. So it's pretty clear from the start that Commander Wolf wants no part of this mission, right?
Yeah, but even still, you know, he is a professional at what he does, and they get planet side, and he's like, "This is what we're doing. You go to this. You go to this. You go to this," and he just wants to stay on task, get the stuff done, and get out. You know, and one of the first things he needs is C-3PO because King Monchucho comes up. Yep. And they have a babbly baby language, the Aleena. So C-3PO has to translate, right? And I will say kudos to Golden Tony, because that guy does not skip a beat when it comes to like all these weird languages and whatever that he has to do when when he's in translation mode as C-3PO. So so good for him, because he sells it. He makes it sound good. Like, you know, I got no qualms.
Yeah, I agree. It's really cool. What do you make of the Aleena here? Like,
I think the Aleena are fine. They're a little bit childish in their depiction, whereby like one of them comes up and gives C-3PO a hug on like the shin, and he's like, "Oh, this must be a custom of the place," you know. So it's fine. I think that the mission itself is kind of weird, because like they're sent in to reboot a computer,
right?
And then
I kind of kept missing what the actual mission here was too. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie. I rewatched the beginning here a few times to figure out what the actual directive was. So if you can shed light on that, that would be.
I don't really have too much other than like R2-D2 is there to go into like their mainframe and like reboot the computer and like set it up with new updated software or something so that they can reconnect to the Republic. Like, that's what I got out of it. And then also Commander Wolf is like, we're going to set up a kitchen here and we're going to set up the hospital here. So I guess that's like the humanitarian relief, right? So that they have at least one area for health concerns and,
for aid for the people.
Right. Primary food needs, right?
Yes, yeah. Like, that part I understand. That part, I like emergency relief efforts, like that I totally understand. We need to head into a computer mainframe part, like, I don't, that I understand less. But I
guess that is so the Republic can communicate and keep an eye on and or do monitoring or something. But here's also why I think it's weird. As we head to the building where the mainframe computer is, right? The MFC. We get to a locked door with some boulders in front of it, and one of the clone troopers, Boost, decides he's going to shoot the boulders to get them out of the way when clearly they're not that big. Like, they could just pick them up and move them. So that's what he does. He fires his blaster, and the Aleena around are like, ooh, like, they seem really mesmerized by technology and blaster fire, yet they have an MFC that connects them to the Republic.
Right,
like,
exactly.
Who came in and set this thing up to begin with? Are these people, like, technologically advanced? Because we'll see later that they are a tribal community. They talked about the gods earlier in the episode, and I thought it was interesting. It wasn't the gods above; it's the gods below. So the gods they worship are underground, right? Not up in the sky, like a lot of people's gods are. So anyway, these boulders are blown out of the way. They head into this building. R2 hooks up to this computer, and he's running his iTunes update or whatnot.
Right.
But one thing I did like about this is there's like a whole bunch of Arbesh like scrolling on the screen as he's doing this thing. So I looked into what it actually says, and it's straight up what you would expect. It says like run program, run plan, and then there's like a progress bar, and then it's just like set 1, set 2, and like all of the normal jargon that you would see on like a recycle boot up screen is what's going through, just scrolling through an Arbesh. So I thought that was a nice touch. I enjoy it when somebody takes the time, like, and it's not just jibber jabber,
right?
Because it is exactly what you would expect if you actually read that language, right? I think it's at this point that some Aleena comes up to 3PO, right? And he's like, hey, we saw this thing that we need to show you.
Yeah.
And C-3PO's like, oh, okay. Something you need to show me indeed. So he like wanders off, and then for some reason R2 follows him because I guess he doesn't actually have to be there to fix the computer. He just like unplugged it and plugged it back in, and then like control delete during the blue screen of death, and is like booting up in safe mode and letting it do its thing, would be my guess. So anyway, they head around the corner, down a ramp, through a door. They seem to be going inside, but they're still outside. And then you see this big gold manhole cover. It's like a big seal on the ground. We get some more tremors at this point, and I think there's an interaction between the Aleena and C-3PO, none of which I actually remember what they say, other than something about... Because there is like this undertone of like, we need to go in, or you need to go in, or you need to fix the ground, you need to make the peace, all this stuff. And Wolf is basically like, I don't care about that. We're here to reboot the computer. We're going to set up our MASH unit, and we're taking off, right?
Yep.
C-3PO is a little more inclined to entertain these guys for whatever reason, which is a little bit out of character for him, because usually he sticks to etiquette and protocol, and like, no, we're not supposed to do that because we weren't told to, type of thing. Whereas this episode, he's like, yeah, what can it hurt? You know? So what happens is he ends up falling in the hole.
Yeah.
And
like during the earthquake, right?
During the earthquake, he's like shook to the ground, shaken to the ground, shook to the ground. Whatever. Shaken. Yeah. He is shaken to the ground. He was shook to the ground. Will have been shaken.
Yeah. The manner. So he falls over and he slides into the hole.
Yes.
Right. This part is really confusing me because at no point does it look like any of the ground is really collapsing in a way that would lead him to slide into the structure.
It doesn't. And it's not like there's like pitch or roll to the ground at all. He basically falls on his butt and then slides in. And if this were a horror movie, like something would have reached out and grabbed him. Or you would think that that's what happened because that's the way it looks. Like he's kind of clawing at the ground, like palms down as he slides backwards into this hole as though he is pulled in by his ankles, but he's not. It's a harmful mistake of nature, I suppose. But R2, man, he just fires up his jets and he follows C-3PO. Like, not even, no thought, and I guess following after his buddy. But they get all the way down to the bottom and land on, I don't know, like a briar patch or something.
Yeah. It's a bunch of branches.
And then we occasionally cut back up to the surface. So most of what happens from here for a while is C-3PO and R2-D2 underground in what is described as tunnels, right? And it's pretty straightforward. They kind of wander down a tunnel, and then there's this, I don't know how you would describe it. I just described it as like purple sparkle. There's like this purple air sparkle stuff that happens. It's like it's like Tinkerbell, right?
Yes, I was gonna say Tinkerbell is exactly purple Tinkerbell because you can't see what's creating the sparkle lights. There seems to be like a brighter, thicker source, but it just looks like a bigger orb, essentially. Right? So it's an orb that has like a comet trail of sparkles.
Yep.
Right? And there's like 3 of them that kind of twirl around together, creating one bigger tail, right?
Okay.
Does that make
cool.
sense?
Yeah.
Like some of them kind of fly around each other.
Right.
Like they're 3 or 4 independent orbs.
Right.
That still kind of fly in a formation.
Okay.
Together that create one, like the 4 sparkly tails create one longer, bigger sparkly tail, like once the tails join up.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a weird purpley sparkling thingy.
Yep. I totally didn't even notice that there was more than one. It just kind of looked like one glob of purple sparkle to me.
It kind of comes and goes. Yeah, like sometimes there's like one big one and like maybe one smaller one trailing it, you know? But
now is the purple sparkle leading C-3PO?
I don't think so.
Or does it just kind of like pop up and undulate around him occasionally and then disappear?
I think it's that. I think it's kind of like if we were to attribute personality or directive to this orb thing that's happening, it seems to be surveying the situation.
Okay.
From what we can see, I would describe these tunnels almost like a video game layout in which it looks like there are multiple paths, but like
all end up in the same place anyway.
Yeah, like there's a wood plank blocking like trail 2 and 4 and 5 and 1, and then you end up going down trail 3 anyways, right?
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So like they're checking out all these other things, but like they for whatever reason, end up towards like the one direction they're supposed to go, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't look like it's leading C-3PO and R2-D2 anyway. And for a second, too, it almost seems like C-3PO is the only one that can actually see it. I don't actually have confirmation myself, one way or the other, that R2 can actually see it. R2 does eventually start spraying C-3PO, because C-3PO starts freaking out. He's like, there are these lights around me, like, help me. And R2-D2 does not react at first. R2-D2 just keeps rolling forward, and then C-3PO starts freaking out more. And then by the time R2-D2 turns around and like pulls out one of his nozzles to spray some smoke at C-3PO, the orbs have already sort of half disappeared. So can R2-D2 see this, or are we in a Snuffleupagus situation here?
That's a good question, man. I'm gonna need to rewatch this through the lens of R2 cannot see purple sparkles.
Because like there are no confirmation sounding beeps that come out of R2-D2, right?
No, not at all. And when R2 does shoot his fire extinguisher thing at 3PO, it isn't at the purple sparkles. It's at 3PO to be like, dude, get a hold of yourself. Like, come back down to Earth. Purple sparkles, whatever. I don't know what you're talking about, but like, we got to find our way out of here. So get your shit together.
Yeah, like I could totally be reading it wrong, but because of all of this kind of together, I kind of saw this as a C-3PO is the only one that can see it for whatever strange reason. So yeah.
So
where do we go from here? Yeah.
They end up in this subterranean tavern, and then what happens? So the purple sparkle lights disappear, but then we see like other lights.
Yes, like on the walls of the cave start to show up, right?
Yeah, but then immediately it's revealed that there's like these big trees, and they're not just trees with lights on them; they're talking trees.
Yep,
with lit up outlines.
Yes, sentient tree beings, and they are called the Kindalo?
This is not from the episode. This is from Wikipedia.
Indeed. This is never mentioned at all. These are trees, however, that can speak Galactic Basic, which is sure.
You know, I was kind of wondering if they were more speaking like mental speak, but then I guess that would have to imply that like C-3PO...
More Snuffleupagus?
C-3PO has like a mind, right?
Right, yeah.
But maybe they're just able to speak whatever language is being spoken by whomever makes it down there. Like if the Aleena were to make their way down into this cavern, that one. Would they speak Aleena or Aleenese? Right.
Are you thinking maybe that they are potentially still speaking Aleena, but because it's C-3PO and he can understand anything, it's just for the benefit of the viewer that they are speaking in Basic?
No, I think like if Greedo ended up down there, they would have conversed with Greedo in Rodian. Yeah.
Whatever the Rodian speak is.
Yes.
So like they just have the ability to speak any language based on whoever's down there.
Correct.
Period.
That's kind of that was my thought, because they seem to be more learned than, you know, these are like ancient beings. This isn't a new species.
Right.
They seem to have been here longer and more well established and more long lasting than the Aleena. You know, if the Aleena are like the juvenile of the planet, these are like your great grandpa's grandpa or something.
Yeah.
Like these dudes been around for a long time.
Yeah, these are the planet elders, right?
Yeah.
They're the grandmother willow of Aleen.
They are the Kindalo.
So basically they tell C-3PO that there is a disrupted balance between the surface dwellers and the subfolk, I guess, is how I'm going to refer to them.
Sure.
They don't really claim that there is only one species above, one species below, and there's a full balance. They just refer to anything above surface and everything below surface, and that there was some sort of agreement or peace made between the two, and something recently seems to have destroyed that peace.
Yeah, it's brought up a couple times that like the peace was broken. And then during this conversation, this is the first. There is something that is brought up for the first time, right? And it's air in general,
right?
And it's not real clear at this point, like what that has to do with anything. But something about the air from above is bad for below, or something like that. And then this Kindalo, I think he says, like, if you're here to help, then you need to go talk to Orphany, and just, like, points off down a path, right? So C-3PO is like, okay, well, I guess we're going that way, right? And so they head down to Orphany. In the one or two times that we do cut back up to the surface, there is an Aleena that runs off to get the king and tell the king what's going on, and the king's hanging out with Wolf. The king's got like a posse that's like following Wolf around, and they start jibber jabbering, and Wolf is like, I have no idea what you guys are talking about. And he's looking around, he's like, where's that translator droid? Like, why'd he run off? Like, what the hell's going on? And then the king and the other Aleena take off, and Wolf is basically like, don't know, don't care, see you later. Which I thought was odd. Like, Wolf doesn't, we've had that Lassie moment several times on this show.
Right.
And this time they didn't do it. Like, I was fully expecting it, like the king to like start jumping up and down, and like these Aleena to be stacked on top of each other, like pantomiming and all this stuff, and then Wolf would be like, oh shit, our droids are in trouble. But the complete opposite happened. Like, the Aleena just run off, and the king is with them, right? And Wolf is like, yep, see you later. Whatever.
Yep. We're going to keep setting up these tents over here.
So they go back to the opening, the Aleena do.
Yep.
And chanting begins, and, they all drop to their knees and worship. And
there's a lot of kowtowing is what's happening, right?
Yeah. And then the next time that we're on the surface, same thing, with more of them. But, so back down in the catacombs, in the caverns, if you will, in the tunnels, whatever you want to call it, in these subterranean passages, C-3PO and R2-D2 come upon another large open area, and we are presented with Orphany, and she is... she just materializes out of the purple sparkle on like a flower chair.
Yes.
Right?
Just, think Alice in Wonderland, but even more trippy somehow, sort of.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah. She also speaks Galactic Basic.
Yep.
But she's more humanoid. I couldn't tell if she was supposed to be plant-based like the other tree folk.
She definitely looks like it. Like, she's more humanoid realized with, like a rounder face and ovular eyes and lips and skin, even though it's like green.
Right.
Not like branches and twigs for fingers and shit like that. But she does have kind of like a couple of vines that go across like her forehead area and then like under her chin. And then almost like her clothes are comprised of like more vegetation rather than like cloth based clothing. But Wikipedia describes her as an amphibian-like humanoid with mystical powers. Now, the mystical powers I definitely get. The amphibian, not so much. Like, maybe she's got kind of a shark tail fishy face.
guess. I don't know. I don't see that at all either. I read more plant-based humanoid.
I totally do as well.
Yeah. So that's what I got. I don't know where Wikipedia is coming with amphibian-like, but sure.
Yeah, I am not sure either. But she...
Yeah, the mystical powers manifest pretty quickly because she's
for sure
sitting in the middle of the chair in the center of this room. The room is circular-ish. We don't really quite see the edges. Not entirely anyways. And then like while C-3PO is talking, she kind of does a flash zoom from the chair to like behind C-3PO, right?
Cool.
Right? Something like that happens. And then she starts chatting and keeps kind of popping up in different places, sort of thing. Starts to happen.
Yeah, and as mystics often do, she speaks in riddles.
Right.
And she tells C-3PO stuff like, well, if you're here to help, then you'll know the way, and if you're here to only leave, the path will be in front of you, or something. And then she straight up tells him a riddle.
Yep.
Which comes up and out of nowhere. C-3PO's like, but I don't know what I'm supposed to do or where I'm supposed to go. And the riddle that she gives him is, you can run but cannot walk. You have a mouth but cannot talk. You have a head but never weep. You have a bed but never sleep. Ask yourself, what are you? And then she disappears.
Yep.
So we have this kind of, I would call it like this kind of comical segment. I don't know that it's supposed to be played for laughs. Or is it?
I think so. I think it's, let's say not like for laughs per se, but it's definitely played, the humor is front and center.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly the way that I saw it, but I wasn't quite sure if it was supposed to be serious or not. Like, C-3PO is trying to figure this out, and he's, like, repeating it back to himself, and he actually has R2 replay the message. So I guess this means R2 is just recording everything all the time.
Yeah.
Which is...
Let's also keep this in mind because it also brings up another question later. But yeah, let's just remember that he has recorded this encounter. Shall we?
Okay. Are you going to bring that back up later?
Maybe, if I remember.
Okay. I'll try to remind you. But yeah, so as C-3PO is trying to figure this out, R2 notices like these symbols on the ground, and there are a few of them that are a different color, right? Most of them are just like etchings on the ground, and then a couple of them like stand out. And R2 like pulls up to one and tweedles something, and C-3PO's like, no, not fire. Fire's not what we're looking for. And then R2 rolls like the next one, and he's like, C-3PO's like, no, soil. Soil's not what we're looking for. And he's like, shut up, R2. I'm trying to figure this out. I almost have this figured out. And then R2 rolls over to the third one, and it's water. So we have the 4 earth elements here.
Yep.
Right? And water is what they're looking for, apparently, right? And that makes C-3PO figure out that it's a river. Meanwhile, R2 is like peeing on the symbol.
Yep.
And that creates opens this fountain in the floor or something. There's like a jet propulsion of water from the floor, and it sprays them up through the roof, and they get swallowed like by a flower. And then we go back up to the surface with a whole bunch of Aleena kowtowing and chanting and Obum Shadane and whatnot, and out of a sculpture head, some water gurgles, and then out fly C-3PO and R2-D2. And somehow this helps C-3PO figure out that they need to put the golden manhole cover plug back in the hole. How does that happen?
So there's another thing that happens where one of C-3PO and R2-D2 are hanging out by that seal again. And then a couple of the Aleena come up to try and talk to C-3PO and R2, and then a few of them pass out, And that's when C-3PO and or R2 figure out that whatever air is leaking out from underground is poisonous to the Aleena, and therefore vice versa, it must flip the other way as well. So then their whole mission is to just close that seal.
Yeah.
That's
it.
all of that.
That's it.
Yep, that's it. They just need to close the seal. So then R2 throws a suction cup wire onto the seal and tries to pull it, but he doesn't have enough energy.
Can't do it. He says,
enough power to do it.
He says, "Hey, you gotta help me, man. Come on, bro. Help me out."
Yeah. And C-3PO is like, "I can't do that." And then he's like, "Whatever." And then goes over and just kicks the other side of it with his foot.
Done.
Yep. Closes it back up. It's all good. Everybody's all good. Yeah. So C-3PO figures out that because they're droids that they aren't affected by the poisonous air there, I guess.
Because they don't breathe.
The whole thing. Yep. So, yeah, that's all they have to do. It's their fate to just put the seal back, and that will end all the ground quakes on Aleena.
Yeah, because it was the tree folk that were like causing the quakes, so that the surface dwellers would fix the peace. Right?
Right. Yeah.
This seems counterproductive. It seems counterintuitive. Like, ground quakes can like split open the earth, right?
Right. Yeah.
Would this not breach the peace?
Yeah.
And the balance between above ground and below ground?
Yep. Nope. That was my question. Okay. Because like, if they're trying to get the seal back on, like, is the ground quake gonna solve that? Like, I don't.
Oh, maybe. I mean,
they just shake it right back into the right spot. Like,
C-3PO fell in the hole,
I guess.
But
yeah.
Yeah. Next question: why don't either of these species know what actually needs to be done?
Yeah, that's why.
Why can't somebody just be like, weird. "Yo, like, help us move this plug"? Like the Aleena could be like, "I can't get close enough because we'll die."
Mm-hmm. But they can't throw a rope to it or anything and push it over. Yeah.
Maybe they could just be like, "Yo, Golden Boy, like, tell them clones I gotta push this plug back in. That's all the help we need. You don't have to build a hospital. You don't need to reboot the computer. We can do that. We just can't push the plug back in the hole."
Nope. Nobody knows that. So
what happens next? Because this is not quite the end of the story.
Yeah, basically R2-D2 and C-3PO rejoin with the clones, and they start recounting everything that happened, and the clones are like, "What are you guys even talking about? Like, none of this makes sense."
Not even like recounting, but C-3PO is just talking to R2, saying, "I'm going to be the one to tell the story. And don't worry, I'll include your part in this, but I'm going to be the one to tell the story because I'm the one that figured it out. And I figured out the riddle." And he's being a complete D-bag about it.
Yep, completely. Yep.
And I guess everything's done. The computer has been rebooted. The king at one point in time said, "No, don't build a hospital, and I don't want a cafeteria here in the middle of my courtyard." So I guess they didn't do that, and they've unloaded all the supplies and everything, and they're packing up the rest of their shit, and they're taking off. So C-3PO and R2 are like the last thing that they needed before they could head out off planet. Wolf says something to the effect of, like, after he rolls his eyes and then puts his helmet back on. And side note, he is a wicked awesome, like, mechanical eye.
Right. There's a good, like, Scarface scar coming across his right eye.
He's got a scar and doesn't have a milk eye, but he has, like, a white mechanical eye. It's pretty sweet. I dig it. But, he looks at one of the clones next to him, and he's like, "As soon as we rendezvous with Master Galia, we're offloading these two." And the other one's like, "Hey, fair enough." And then take off, iris in, Q-Lab music. This one's done.
Indeed. Yep. Done indeed.
Yeah. This one, this was pretty quick. It was like a real fast story, I felt.
Yes, definitely.
Not a lot happened, you know.
Mm-mm.
How'd you feel about this one? Thumbs up, thumbs down?
You know what? Here, I'm going to preface it this way. This is a really weird lore to add into the ever deepening pool that is Star Wars, right? Like, I don't know why we need to know any of this about the Aleenas.
I don't think we do.
At all. But it's still, like, of all the stories that we could have explored involving this species, for us to get into, like, there's a subterranean species that is, like, pissed off for some weird reason, it's bizarre. This story is fucking bizarre.
Okay.
That said, I'm still going to give it a light thumbs up.
Okay.
You know? I think it was fine. I think it was fun. Like you said, it moves along pretty quickly. The humor is fine. My main issue is that coming off of 3 Gungan-heavy episodes and kind of getting that brand of humor and then another dose of it via C-3PO here.
Yeah.
It kind of felt like a lot, honestly, of that sort of storytelling at once. So for us to be 5 episodes in here, I needed to move past this, like, bumbling sort of let's fall into a story sort of story. But that said, I think C-3PO and R2-D2 getting their own story where they're both equally fronted is pretty cool. I enjoy that much about it. The crazy lore that this unleashes on us is just complete nuts, I guess.
Yeah, I honestly wish there was more to this episode.
I don't disagree. Because, we spend like half of the episode still just kind of bumbling around Aleena, right? Like, we could have, if there was more substance, we could have distributed the way the story arc unfolds a lot better.
Right.
Maybe.
I would like.
But that said, yeah.
I would like to know more about these Kindalo. I would like to know more about how Orphine like fits into their society, because she's like completely different.
Right.
For me, this one's thumbs up, just to make that clear. And it was fun. Yeah,
it's a fun episode.
I think it probably has no consequence to anything else in the greater Star Wars universe, be it Clone Wars or beyond. But I liked it. It was fun.
I think as a 22-minute episode of television, I think it's fine, passable entertainment, right? There's nothing wrong with that. That's absolutely A-okay. I'm not going to lie, though, like, with how this episode is structured, when we had about 3 minutes left, I really thought we were headed towards another cliffhanger of some sort.
Really?
I honestly didn't quite know where we were headed until C-3PO starts mentioning, like, oh, we have to close the seal. I was like, oh, okay, then that's the whole arc. Okay, then we're good. We're all cleared. But, like, with this whole, like, riddle thing and, like, them trying to get out of the weird underground cavern situation, like, right before they're getting blasted through a flower and out to the surface, I really thought they were going to be stuck there until the next episode.
Yep. They take the flower rectum, and that is what ejects them from the planet.
Yeah. I think if anything, like, if they had leaned into the weirdness more, I feel like that would have helped. Like, if they went, like, full... Think about, like, the universe of Super Mario, right? Like, when you think about the aspects of that and how fucking crazy it is, the Goombas, him, like, wall jumping, Bowser being a thing, the Koopas being a thing, like, that universe is nuts.
Right. Like,
but
eating a mushroom and doubling in size.
Yeah, exactly. I think if they were to lean into that surrealism a lot more, like, then we could have... I would have felt more confident in this episode. As is, it's definitely an entertaining episode, but I feel like we could have gone farther.
Yeah, I wish it would have. I did like Aleena, the planet, and Aleena, the species, because so in Resistance, there's that little guy that that Kaz gets in. Excuse me. The little guy that Kaz makes a bet with in the dart game, right? Plays darts against him at the beginning of the series. Apparently, he is an Aleena.
Yes.
So I didn't recognize him in Resistance, but when I saw these guys, I was like, oh, that's where that dude from Resistance came from.
Right.
That made me like that connection even more, and bumped this episode up a notch, because it is just like a little tidbit of background information that probably is 100% unnecessary, but those are the things that I like exploring in Star Wars, and this was a perfect example of that.
Well, because I always like the Aleena, because the Aleena is one of the first creatures that crashes in the pod race too, right?
Oh, that's true.
Or at least that racer is an Aleena. And I always like that he was the little guy, because he's the one that turns around, doesn't notice he's driving straight for like a rock sculpture. Yeah.
Or a
stalactite thing.
Stalagmite, right?
Yeah. And then turns around, sees he's about to run into it. Instead of turning, he just holds up both his hands, starts yelling, and then crashes. And I think he's the one that has like a family too, doesn't he?
He might.
I think there's like an Aleena wife and kid that are like watching along. I think that might be old to you, honestly, but I for some reason remember some sort of story that there was a wife and kid that he left behind after that pod race. So.
Yeah.
Does that sound familiar to you?
It totally does.
Because I think you are the one with the wide knowledge in.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of who that was.
Yeah, I got nothing beyond the fact that Aleena person shows up there in Phantom Menace.
Yeah, that would be Rats Tyrell.
Yes.
And he died. I thought maybe he made it through, but he did not.
No, he was absolutely dead. There was a big fireball that happened for sure. Yeah. So yeah, that's what I remember. Because also the way he dies too is so over dramatic, like wide open mouth yelling, hands in the air, just ridiculous,
Yeah, so doing a little Rats Tyrell research real quick. It says, after his demise, Tyrell's family was reportedly seen grieving after the race's end. In fact, the little scrapper's death became an emotional event for the entire planet of Aleena, who had lost what was perhaps their most well-known resident.
Oh, man.
That's sad.
Oh, man.
Way to bring it down, man.
So silly, man. Yeah. That's why as soon as these guys were showing up, I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. These are the Aleenos. That's what that species is called. Because I like you, completely forgot. I definitely forgot that. Like, I knew of the species, and I just forgot what they were freaking called, because there's way too much to keep track of. I'm sorry. I'm not that deep into it. But, man, as soon as they showed up, I'm like, oh, yeah. I like the Aleena. I really do. I like the craziness. I like their weird sort of... They have, like, a happy-go-lucky sort of attitude to everything, it seems like. The fact that the king is just kind of chanting and conversing with C-3PO and just bopping around. Like, these people seem like they'd be a good hang. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Seem like it'd be a good hang.
Yeah, they seem pretty upbeat. So
right,
especially on a war-ravaged planet that is trying to tear itself apart, so that right. I don't know, so that the burps and farts can stay separate or whatever.
Something, yeah.
However that works, but
I don't understand how that works, but sure.
I don't either.
But yeah, anyways, but all in all, entertaining episode. It moved along briskly enough that nothing bothered me here. It was perfectly fun.
Was there something else that you were going to bring up about the recording that R2-D2 makes?
Right. So the freaking clone troopers don't believe them that anything happens. Why don't they just play any of this recording?
I think that they I think R2 likes to keep his secrets.
That makes sense.
Maybe
That
he
makes a lot
doesn't
of
want
sense.
to reveal that he's just recording all the fucking time.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I can understand that.
So,
Fucking creeper.
and, you know, maybe they
Goddamn
didn't have
creeper.
time because C-3PO just continues to talk and talk and talk, and R2 doesn't have time to get a beep in edgewise, so.
Sounds right to me. Yeah.
I got one last note here, and then I'm ready to wrap this up. Occasionally I bring up the capital B bad guy, because I kind of keep a list of our antagonist of each episode, and for this one, I strictly have Air as the antagonist of this episode.
Oh God, we've gone full The Happening here, haven't we? Did you ever watch that movie?
Well, that was plants, right? No, it was the
Plants. Yeah, it was plants using air.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was the plants. It was the plants
Yep.
putting some sort of pheromones into the air or
Yep.
something like that.
Something
God,
like
that
that.
movie was so bad. That movie was so bad.
No, that's
I saw it in theaters and everything, man. I sat down, watched it in theaters. My girlfriend at the time and I were just laughing hysterically throughout the whole movie. We were those disruptive people because that movie was just that bad.
I have a side story about The Happening that I'll tell you off mic, but before we can do that,
All right.
let's wrap this up. Shouts out to
Air is it?
Yeah. Shouts out to Kevin over on Twitter at They Call Me K-Dub. Thanks for all the work you do for us, buddy. He's our graphics dude. Shouts out to Lindsay over at strangefantasymusic@gmail.com. She took care of our intro outro music. And Anthony at Blue the Beard on Twitter, I think is what he is, put together our website. So thanks, Anthony, for that. Speaking of which, you can head on over to notthenerds.com if you want all of our social media, what do they call those? Usernames? Handles?
Links. Handles.
Whatever. Yeah. It's an easy and succinct way to find all that stuff and or find our playlist on YouTube and whatnot. Speaking of YouTube, if you are checking us out over there, give us a like, give us a subscribe, comment in the section down below. And if you're not on YouTube, go ahead and give us a 5-star rating on whatever podcatcher of choice you are using. And
Indeed.
a rating there would be awesome as well. So next week, we've got Nomad Droids. So maybe, just maybe, Lorenzo, you're going to get your wish, and we're going to see R2-D2 and C-3PO next week.
We'll see. We shall see.
Until then, I've been Kevin.
Lorenzo here.
These aren't the nerds you're looking for.
Bye-bye.